Hey everyone, welcome to the Funky Marketing Show. As you know, the show where I'm hosting conversations with my friends and with other professionals that do good stuff for the good people or for themselves and have, a little bit of different or I like to say edgy perspective and are not quiet about, when they see things that are done wrong. Now, today's guest is someone that I've been interacting a lot with on LinkedIn, or he's been interacting with me. We can say it both ways. But Kyle is a guy that I don't know. There's something old school about him, and I like those things because I like to say that I'm also old school. And he's not somebody that's doing things in a conventional way. So, like, if you uh, know who I'm talking about, Kyle is a guy with a tie, sometimes in a suit. Creating specific videos now that he started also with that, and we're gonna dive into all of this. But first, join me in welcoming Kyle to the show.
Thanks for having me on the show, Nemanja. It's greatly appreciated, and I'm sure we're going to have a lot of fun today.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if people know you by Kyle or they know you by Bell. That's an
Hard to say.
interesting.
There's a lot of people that call me Bell, both in my personal and professional life. It's up to them. I don't have a preference either way, and I think it stems from my father because a lot of people call him Bell too. So call me whatever you want.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Like my father and my grandfather, they've been all called the same nickname as I am, and
Mhm.
there's a whole family in my hometown that's been called that way, and it's not by the surname. It's just a nickname. That's my username all over the internet, and
Okay. Yeah.
it's interesting. I had no idea what it means, and there's only one person alive that knows this stuff. So me and when
Oh.
my father was alive, we asked him, and he told us like it's kind of the family that was living in around the entrance of the city and around the exit. So basically, they were known as the guardians of the city. And I was, okay, I like that. I'll
Oh.
take it.
That's a very fancy thing to be called, I think. Great responsibility. And I believe you
Yeah,
are translating that into marketing now with your company. You're the guardian of marketing.
yeah, that's a good translation of it. So today I want to talk about a lot of stuff that I love that I didn't talk about for a long time, and those are the things that are deep rooted inside my routines and into the routines of my
Mm-hmm.
teams, and they are related to the direct response copywriting in general, messaging, positioning, and all those other stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
before we dive into that, I want to ask you like, where did you learn direct response in copywriting? Because by looking at you, not only like the expressions and everything, but also the styling, those kind of things. Like it to me, it looks like that you learn from the legends, from the old school guys that actually establish the direct response and everything else. I mean, those rules are still very much applied today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say even before I started writing copy, or actually, one of the legends, Eugene, say you don't write copy. It's insulting to write copy. You assemble it. However, from my sales, I was doing cold calling, the telephone, or I was going door to. I learned a lot about human behavior, human nature, and understanding the psychology of people. And I think understanding those few things are very important before you write copy. And then, of course, learning from the level, anyone that could be writing in the advertising and marketing space hundreds of years ago. David Ogilvy, as I already mentioned, Eugene Schwartz, Rosser Reeves, And there's a little list. I won't even get into the list because there's tons of women. I would be missing some, but that's mainly what I did, is study their advertisements and ways I could potentially improve them. So initially, when I got into copywriting, when I was a cub, I was rewriting their ads. I was writing their ads on paper, word for word, with a pencil, and getting instead of what you do as a direct writer.
Yeah, that's the advice that I've heard a lot when I started. You know, like start rewriting things, and it's not only the advertisements. It's also like when you are writing things, you know, try to recreate the stories and to make them
Yep.
your own. Those kind of stuff, and you know, it's just like when I'm thinking of, you know, what should I advise somebody that comes to the marketing, like my advice would go that they need to be as close as possible to the customers. So direct
Exactly.
response or customer success or just like you know, call center, those are all good options from the start when they can talk directly or write directly
Yeah.
to the customers.
Yeah, and what I find interesting about being close to the customer in the 21st century, it's not always about making a sale. Back when the legends of direct response were starting out, that being goal, because that's how you measure if copy works or not. But now, since people to virtually everywhere they go, a lot of what you do with content is based around how can you build awareness, how can you make them engage, what can you do to pique their interest, basically. And so, not well, the entire purpose is to sell, but not all forms of content that you create when you're writing copy is necessarily there to make a sale. You're just there to educate, and then later on down the road, you can of course put an offer out there and see what you can reel in.
Yeah. So thinking about all those things, like being creative, adding a story, telling a story, you know,
Mm-hmm.
getting to know the people, the customers, and then like I see that you work a lot in financial industries, and it's an
Mm-hmm.
industry that is known for its limitations. You know, they
Yeah, of
cannot
course.
share many stuff. They're stiff. You know, you need to know the boundaries and everything, and I wanted to go in that way because, like, a friend of mine, Mladen, who is also a direct response
Mm-hmm.
copywriter, asked like
Sure.
how it is working in that industry. You know, how do you manage to do it? Because
Yeah.
on another show that I'm hosting with Marty Sanchez, we also talk about marketing in general and content in general for the
Mm-hmm.
financial industries.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you need to know what you can do, what you cannot do. You need to know who are the people that's gonna check the content, and then you can go and produce. But you need to know specific stuff. So how it is from your angle?
Well, I've been blessed because I have a close friend in the financial services industry for over 50 years. And he more or less has what compliance will accept, what they won't accept. So I had a I beforehand, and then when I got into creating copy for these companies, I understand that you cannot use ethics when it comes to, say, testimonials, for example, social proof. You cannot divulge information from a client because it's all private information between, let's say, the wealth manager and the client. So one of the best ways to provide social proof is to be very general and philosophical. Just a quick example could go into a manager and want to understand how she can get her estate in order, what she do years down the road and have money for with her family life and then her business life. Is the one who has the money. She understands that he's sick, that he only has a limited time left on this earth. Maybe it could be a few months. And so she's worried, she's concerned what she's can or cannot do. with the money that will be left to her. And what I've done before is I've written an email in a way where I was stating her concerns, that she's fearful of the future and how she could spend her money. And she was very thankful for the fact that she got connected management company and she ended up having everything set for her, and that she was shocked to see that she had more money than she needed for not only her business life, and that she was able to begin investing. So it's just small things like where you can touch on the emotional component and the logical component of being able to have the money there for other options, and then of course eliminating the fear and implement that there's peace of mind, there's confidence and courage that you can deliver and use because of the fact that you've decided to work with this wealth manager. So there's ways to get around it, but you have to be very.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds like a good advice, and I love the example. Because like usually the way people are telling you to do it is like find the details, go and find the details, file some things that unite people. But then, like for certain industries, you need to go philosophical and general because you cannot
Yeah.
show those details to the world. You can know it, but you cannot show it.
Yeah, and I would love to show figures. This is the amount of money the person into their 401k, for example. This is the return. Because if you were able to do that in the financial services industry and show exactly what people are getting, copy would be so much easier. I think a lot of financial advisors and wealth managers would be doing much better because people want to see numbers, but you can't show any numbers. You can't reveal anything. So you have to go that route, as I mentioned, of being general. And I find in other industries, because I have done work in many different industries, that when you're able to provide those numbers, people believe you're promoting much, much faster. And I'm sure you've seen that with the clients you work with, the SaaS industry, for example.
Yeah, I mean, as many proofs that you can give them that you know what you are doing, that's it. But yesterday I had a conversation with Kalim, and one thing he
Mm-hmm.
mentioned, like what you can do is you can make the case study out of you, which is like a great thing. Like you
Mm-hmm.
have all of it inside one, so it's examples, results, social proof. Basically, you have
Yep,
everything if you do it that way.
that's
Uh,
true. And I know writers who love writing case studies for their clients. That's kind of a few of the ones that I've seen to for the last 6 months. So it's interesting.
yeah, there is even what was the name? Case study buddy, if I'm not wrong.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The website, I think Joel Kletke. It's his
Okay.
website
Yeah.
when they focus only on creating case studies for their clients. Which something that he got to while working with different clients, and he found out, aha, this is something that I can develop, and then it turned to
Mm-hmm.
completely different business.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are different ways in which you can implement those things. But what I see and what I practice is that I like to have every member of my team to know how to write a good copy, because I think if they
Mm-hmm.
know
Yeah.
how to simplify things and how to make them look structured and guide somebody from one point to the other,
Mm-hmm.
basically they will know how to implement that in other parts of their work.
And it always helps build your brand as well. Because employees creating content builds a lot of awareness, brand identity, reputation, and it's a win-win, I believe.
Yeah, something like that. How much did it help you, like being active on LinkedIn and just sharing? I know that you have like um, those tips. small tips that you're giving away, small gems that people can go and use right away and see, the difference. How much did it help you?
Oh, tremendously, because before I was on LinkedIn, I wasn't using any social media. I had clients, although I was getting either referrals or outreach through email, and it's a much more arduous process and to create content on LinkedIn, and I had considered it, but I didn't start it. I think I had an account open maybe for a year, and I was never on it. I actually forgot that it existed. So when I started creating content on LinkedIn, it was mainly to give away as much about copywriting, direct response marketing, anything that I knew would help not only build my brand, but really help other people. Because even now, I'm creating 3 pieces of content every day. Although it's not necessarily to land clients happen, but I'm doing it because I understand there's a lot of people who need that expertise and can use it. And that's really the main reason why I do it. And anything else that happens after that is a bonus for me.
Yeah, I mean, you're basically, creating relationships with people. And that thing only can take you for a lot longer journey than, if you're just selling to the people.
Exactly. And I think the entire point of creating content on any platform, social media platform, I should be precise, is mainly just to build relationships, build trust, credibility, and talk to people, conversations. From there, you can see where things go. So many, I've been told, I don't really get these DMs often, but they just pitch immediately in DMs, and I see people posting about it. And I don't know why someone would do that, because it's the equivalent of going out in the middle of the street, holding up a sign and expecting someone that walks to inquire. And even if a person has in whatever it is that you're holding the sign up about, they're not going to inquire because they don't know you.
Exactly. I mean, I still get a couple of those messages, not that often, but like a few days ago, I got one. Actually, I think that they got the list out of the companies, just put it in the sales navigator and spam everybody with emails, trying to sell me
Yeah,
exactly
yeah,
the
yeah.
services that I'm selling. And it's kind of ridiculous because they're doing it from the company's page. Actually, it was a profile. They open a profile as a company, so it makes it even more ridiculous. I don't know how people are not getting those things. Like, being human and getting personal is so much more important than just getting to as many
Yeah.
people as possible.
Funnily enough, this morning I had a message. The guy said, "Hello, I want to sell my Gmail account." First of all, he had left a comment on my post before that saying, "I want to sell Gmail, Yahoo, AOL, Hotmail, whatever." I responded to him and I said, "I'm not sure what you mean. I don't know how you can sell those domains when you don't own them." And that was it. So then when he sent me that message, I just said, "Okay, I'm going to block this guy because this is not going to go anywhere." So I don't even know what he's asking.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? There are some people who are genuinely making a mistake. Like,
Yes, yes.
okay, I connected with like 15 people and I want to send welcome message to all of them. So I make mistake and double the message, and I send the same message for 2 people to 1 person. Yeah, I say, oh man, I'm like this. So when I see something interesting, I respond to people. So I say, oh man, that copy paste thing really fuck you up. And he was like, no, sir, I'm sorry, sir. I didn't want it to happen. Yeah, but interesting thing is, when it was my birthday, I got,
Hmm.
tons of copy paste messages, but
Okay, sure.
there were a couple of people. They were like, "Hey, man, happy birthday!" And in like 3 hours, "Hey, I have this course, or I have this that I'm selling," and I was like, "Fuck." That's really something, like we had a first uh, exchange of the words like you are wishing me a happy birthday, and then after 3 hours the same day you are trying to sell me something.
Would have been better if they had said, "Well, I got a present for you. What's your address or what's your email or whatever," and they send you something. Then okay, you can get behind that because you say, "Well, a stranger sent me a gift. That was nice of them, very generous. Let's see what else they may or may not be able to do for me." Maybe you talk to them again. One method that I don't think a lot of copywriters use is if they have any information product, whether that's a course, a book, special report, something. If they talk to either a former client that they worked with or someone who they want to be their client and developed a little bit of a relationship with them, but they don't know them that well, they can say to them, what's your office address or what's your business address? I'd like to send you a free gift that I have. And people will say, sure, go ahead. They give you the address. All you have to do, you send them a book or you send them something physical that is of revealing your expertise that you have put out into the world. So when you send them that, you attach your business card to that book, to the course of DVDs, whatever it is, and you also have a handwritten note just thanking them for accepting the gift, and then that's it. So you send that to them, and once it lands with a thud on their desk in their office, they say, "Oh, this guy's pretty serious," or "This woman's pretty serious," and they look at whatever it is you sent them. Maybe they read it, maybe they just browse through it, and then your business card is there. So they immediately contact you after that because you've shown initiative. They understand that they can trust you because you've created something that's of value, and it's a great way to land new clients or to work with old clients. And I learned that from Bob Lott. He's a legend in the direct response marketing industry, and he was telling me about that. I said, yeah, I can see why that would be really effective.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me a lot of what Frank Kern is doing and talking about because they do the advertising like with videos, just the awareness
Yep.
phase, and then basically they do it until they see that the frequency of ad is going above 3.5, which means that people saw it at least 3 times, and then what they do, they already have the data so about the mailing addresses and everything, so then they send you a present, a package,
Yes.
or whatever, and you already know the brand because you saw the video, you saw the message on social media, on Google, wherever they are doing it, and and they get you to the next step. So when you get the present, then they ask you, yeah, you need to go to the website to check some of other stuff. So you go to the website and you check other stuff. On the website, you have other things going on. So basically, you get into that circle. This morning, I was talking with Alexander Alic, my content writer,
Yep.
and we were mentioning like Jay Abraham. If you subscribe to his newsletter, man, I had trouble going out of that circle a few years ago. It drives you, it drives you, it drives you, and it never lets you out of it.
It's an unrelenting cycle of marketing with him. He's been doing it now for 40 plus years, maybe 50. And it's funny because I hear a lot of stories who were around when he was first starting. So they tell me some things, and it's interesting because a lot of the people I speak with in my industry, they've been in the industry for decades. So they were there when he first started. And I get to hear some interesting stories. I won't reveal them simply because they had asked me to keep it confidential. But if you ever get to speak to anyone who's been in the industry for 40, 50 years, and you talk to them, build a relationship with them, they'll tell you some very fascinating stories about Jay. But he's a great guy from what I hear. And I know that he understands how to keep hold your attention and keep you attracted towards whatever it is he's pitching you or promoting you.
Yeah, and you mentioned one thing that I think we should emphasize, and it is that you can learn a lot from the older people. Like
Of course.
young people, I don't consider myself young with 30, 37, 38 years old, but
Hmm.
younger people are usually, like eager to find out stuff, to learn more, to go there, but they consider older people boring. But if you just spend time with them, listen to their stories, some of that experience, I think that the journey, which is like this, will get a lot shorter if they do those
Yep.
things.
Yeah, and
Uh,
the people who are older are people that have experience. And I always say there's no compression algorithm for experience based on that. So if they've been through everything that you will experience, already have experience. So they can
mhm.
lead you in the right direction. That's what's more important. Yes, there are people who are even younger than me that are doing really well with not just copywriting, just marketing in general. They could be 21, 22 years old. They could be worth dollars. I've met those people, and they're great to speak to and learn from and all that, but they still lack a lot of experience. So there's a huge gap between someone who's 22, 23 years old. I'm 30, by the way, and someone who is in their 50s or in their 60s that has been in the industry for years. And so they don't need any more experience. They can just tell you more or less what will or will not happen. They'll give you a scenario and they say, well, one of three things, four things can happen, and choose to do. This is what will happen. And it's great because I feel those people can, like you said, save you from a lot of huge mistakes when someone who's younger wouldn't be able to because they haven't had the experience.
Yeah, exactly. So there is one thing that I want to get into, and it's related to the email. So
Mm-hmm.
I think we finished with the mindset that email is dead. I hope so, because it's very much alive. And my point of view is that I'm getting actually more and more uh, great outreach emails. It's becoming
Mm-hmm.
more and more much harder for me to reject them. That I don't
Oh,
need it.
good. Yeah.
But like the copy is great, and I'm seeing that the quality goes up and up and up, and it means that
Mm-hmm.
people are really studying those things, and you know uh, taking time to do the great research and to go into the details. So, what's your stand on the email and using the email in kind of either doing the outreach or doing some other stuff?
Well, outreach is very effective. I mean, that's how I landed all of my first clients when I was starting out over 5 years ago. And I was doing it poorly, I might add. It still worked. So I can imagine you doing it
What
well.
were what were
And
you what were you selling from the start? What was the service?
it was either one of three things: blog articles, emails, or I'm trying to recall here something. Oh, it was SEO at the time, which was a huge mistake. I don't know anything remotely about it. Well, that's a lie. I do know a little bit about SEO. I know the foundations and the basics, but I'm not an SEO expert. I don't market myself that way. I'm not the person to hire if you're looking to do things specifically with SEO. There's tons of people that get out there. That's not my expertise. But that was the three things I was focusing on: blog articles, SEO, and emails. And not sure why I was marketing myself and promoting that I could write emails when the emails I was writing were terrible. Although they did work with certain people. I was using a template that template was good, but the problem with templates is that you should only use them as a guide. I don't think
Hmm.
word for word and fill things in where they need to make it personal. I think the best approach when you're doing outreach is to find two or three things that you can see on someone's website you can improve upon. So you give them that. You reveal to them this is exactly what you need to do. And if you don't do this, then this is going to continue to happen. And of course, you can find something that is a personal interest to them and that you have a genuine interest in as well. That can be included in a PS, that could be included even to grab their attention, could be the subject line, something that you have common ground on. And I think that's important. Those tidbits of information from people's, not their personal life, but maybe their personal interests. You can find all that on Twitter. If they're not on Twitter, you can find that through news articles. There's tons of ways to get out these things about people where you're able to use that in outreach for emails.
I remember one advice that I don't know who gave it to me a couple of years ago, when it was like how you are connecting with people on LinkedIn. It's sort of like
Mm-hmm.
the outreach, but like he was like, go to their Instagram, go to their YouTube if they have it. At the time, TikTok wasn't a thing,
Mm-hmm.
and find things that are unique for them. Let's say
Yep.
I remember as clearly as a day the example, like um, there was a lady that was drinking wine at the balcony of her house, and thinking, the winter is starting, the autumn is finished, and I
Mm-hmm.
still can drink my wine on the balcony, but those days are going to the end. So like
Yeah,
those are the things that you are looking for, like when they are
of
emotional
course.
and they can personally get attached to them.
Exactly. And I find one thing that I've used when I was a young copy cup really well is figuring out something to do with maybe sports, entertainment, something attracts most human beings. Because if there is an interest, for example, you're a fan of the NBA, and I don't watch it anymore. I used to be a huge fan growing up, as you were. So that's something I could bring up, talk to you about if I were ever to send you an email as cold outreach. It's just small things like that that can start it, and it shows that the person has actually taken the time, that they care about who you are and they want to talk to you, as opposed to just getting in your inbox, hoping you open the email and pitching you something.
Yeah, and the way you craft the words, the way you speak, uh, has a great impact on the conversation. Like I remember using just one word that I got 10 people responding me just mentioning that word, and I was like, it was delighted. I would be delighted to know more about you. And they were like, man, nobody has ever told me that they would be delighted to find out more about me. you know
Yeah, yeah, I could see that. Yeah, because it's a word that isn't used a lot in today's parlance. I actually, now that you mention it, I haven't had anyone tell me that they were delighted to meet me or delighted to talk to me or it was delightful to have a conversation. I hear other words that have the same meaning, but never that word. And I think when you're using certain words that haven't been used much in today's vernacular or parlance with people, you can really attract attention that way. Because I mean, there are words that use that will draw in the reader and your subject line with your emails. I'll just name a few for example: announcing, discovery, or discover, attention, just to name a couple or a few, I should say. And you can use those as leverage to make sure your subject line attracts the right person that you're sending the email to. But
yeah,
when it comes to
I think
emotion,
I think
yeah,
uh-huh, go
go
ahead,
ahead.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just wanted to add that if people want to know those words, like if they Google it, they will find their list of words that you can use in a
Yep.
headline that can spark someone's attention.
Oh yeah, there's tons of them. There's tons of them. I mean, I don't think there's a finite amount because there's so many different things you can use. One thing I notice people don't use, and they should use it often, well, more often anyway. They don't have to use it all the time, of course. Is when they have a testimonial, take one fragment of that testimonial, use it in their subject line in an email, and that alone will build that credibility so that the person opens up their email. And it's one of the oldest methods in the book, but I don't see that many people using it anymore. The copywriters are from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and that are still working today, that have been in the industry for decades. Some of them still use it because they were taught that. But I don't think it's being taught that much anymore, the new generation of copywriters.
Yeah, I mean, just using your customers' words, nothing better than that. I mean, if I
Exactly.
could, I would create every piece of content, every piece of copy everywhere. You just using those. Actually, I think that I'm actually doing that because all of my content is coming from talking with the clients, talking
Uh-huh.
with my peers, with the customers, and talking with people on the podcast. Like what we
Mhm.
do with this, we for each episodes we do the transcript, and that's how
Yep.
I create the caption that goes with the video.
Yeah.
Basically, I rephrase it a little bit, but those are exact the same words, and people recognize them.
Yeah. And it works like a charm. It never fails.
Yeah, I mean, like looking at some of the biggest names and the way they got through the
Hmm.
noise, it's just because like we are all talking about specific things, and if you can be the
Yep.
voice of those people that you are going after, and you can write the things that they are thinking about, that's it. But then comes the other thing, like how could you get into their heads? Because like talking about great copy, about great narrative, everything, it lives in your customers' heads. So you need to get there.
Absolutely. That reminds me. I saw a post on LinkedIn the other day, and it was from a large influencer. And she was talking about having a person rent space in your head and how you shouldn't allow them to do that given certain circumstances, basically. And so I responded, I said, are you telling me that I'm not allowed to rent space in your head? Is it because I am late on paying my rent from last month to you? Is that what? And so a lot of people ended up liking that comment. I was just joking around. But my point is, when you have a bit of comedic flair to how you engage with people or any content you create, that draws a lot of attention. Now, uh, years ago, that wasn't recommended that you are there to entertain or be comedic with copy. But now it's something I believe is almost a secret weapon. And when you can do that, it really attracts people's attention. My email list that I have, I just bullshit most of the time. I do give out value, but most of the time I'm just making up stuff. And they say, "Oh, this is hilarious," and I say, "Yeah, I'm just fucking around. Basically, it's nothing to go home about, but it attracts people's attention. So when I do write something serious about copywriting, marketing, whatever it may be, they will read it, and I think that's a great segue to really do something that you know is meaningful for the person to build that relationship. And then when you do want to speak about a specific subject, whether in my case, it could be landing pages, could be email marketing, it could be content marketing, could just be copywriting principles, then they're willing to listen.
Yeah, I mean, we often forget the fact that no matter how successful people are, no matter which positions they are, they appreciate the good humor. They're humans
Yep.
after all.
Yeah. You never go wrong
And
entertaining someone, especially when you know how to do it well,
Mhm.
because they'll remember you. I know people I've met throughout my life that vibrant, lively, they're funny, and I may have only had an experience with them once or twice. We met somewhere at a party, or we met somewhere between friends, and we just talked, and I remember them. I know their name, first, last name. I know what they do, all this stuff because of the impression, just being themselves, being humorous.
Exactly. You know how they say, at least we used to say that when we were playing basketball and those kind of things, like you need to get sweaty with a person, cry with them or laugh with them so you can get that connection.
Yes,
But I
yes.
think the emphasis was on sweat.
Well, if you're not sweating, you're not working, as they say. That's a old saying, and I am very much a proponent of that saying. And I think when you get in the trench of that, then you're able to really get to know them. You're vulnerable and you reveal more of who you are, and so do they, and builds a bond. And I think it's extremely important. And it's not necessarily about getting really personal. It's just about feeling your emotions, being direct with them, and not being afraid to say whatever is on your mind.
Yeah, tell me how important it is to to differentiate from the others.
Mhm.
Like in your example, we already mentioned that you are a guy with a tie in a suit.
Mhm, mhm.
Also,
Yeah.
like you have this cool saying like "bail out." If you need to sell, call Bell. Those kind of
Yeah, yeah.
things. Those are all unique stuff, unique gems that are, I guess, part of the bigger picture.
It's incredibly important, and especially now since the global pandemic is still going on. It's not over, contrary to what people are saying. This is not post-pandemic yet. The economy hasn't changed. When that does happen, it will be an entire creator's world. And anyway, I won't get into that. So to answer your question, you have to think about what you want to be remembered for and how people are going to perceive your brand. In my case, I'm a very old school person when it comes to my personality, and I believe business, when you're conducting it, to be dressed formally, and that's where the suit came from. When it comes to the sayings, I was just thinking about things that I knew would have my name in it. That's one thing, so they remember my name. But the other thing was to make sure it was memorable, or it was something that I know people would enjoy hearing. And so that's how I came up with the tagline, "You need to sell, call Bell," and then Bell was kind of something that came to me on a whim morning. And I said, I should start using this in all of my posts, and I think it will catch on, and it did. So to differentiate yourself like that is incredibly important, because more and more people are coming online now. And there's a ton of people in not only my space, any industry you're in, that are competing for the same eyeballs. And competition is great. You're supposed to coexist with them. But in my world and how I think, anyone who is a direct response copywriter, not necessarily working in the niche I'm in, financial services, but in general, I want them to be an afterthought, as opposed to when someone's thinking about hiring a copywriter. I want the first thought to be me when they're considering that. So the differentiation plays a huge role when on top of mind with your ideal customers. And I think a lot of people don't consider how they can differentiate themselves. For example, I saw one woman I remember a while back, and she's a big influencer, and I think she focuses on LinkedIn coaching, so building brands on LinkedIn. And one thing she did, which stood out to me, and someone else even mentioned it that was a huge influencer, was that I think she had pink square frame glasses on, and then her background was pink, and then she had pink banner, and then she had mentioned something about pink being her favorite color. So all those things tie in, and when you can connect the dots like that, remembered. And she did a lot of different posts with those specific glasses on, and it was very strategic. And I thought it was because that alone is showing you that if you want to hire her as a LinkedIn coach, she's a great person to hire, because she knows exactly what she's doing to attract attention.
Yeah, you reminded me of a guy when LinkedIn started to change and becoming more social media platform instead
Mm-hmm.
of just like CV, virtual CV platform.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There was a guy, I don't remember the name, um, young guy that just, everybody had the same profile photos. Those
Yeah.
professional, or they
Headshot.
had profile photos from the high school. Like those were the two that they had, but there suddenly appears a guy that wears a huge hat on his head,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
and that profile photo changed things. Like people started following him, and he actually
Mm-hmm.
had
Mm-hmm.
some really meaningful things to say. So it
Yep.
got together, and like that's where things started to change. But that's just like one photo, just wearing a hat instead of everybody else don't, can make a difference.
Yeah. And I think it starts with your appearance, because a first impression is based on two things: how you look, and then the words or the content that you're producing. And I think your appearance, depending on what it is you want to brand yourself as, that's equally as important as the content or the words you're putting out into the world. And those two things have to coincide and mesh together in a way that it's going to be memorable for people.
Exactly. So let's come up with a couple of advices for people who are, still didn't get into, messaging, positioning, those kind of stuff. They're building the business, but they are now in a position when, okay, we see everybody's talking about differentiation, about positioning for something. Like, what would you suggest to them? Like, okay, they have a culture, they have those things, but they didn't express it online, or it lives only in their office. So what would you suggest them, how they can use all those things to position themselves online? Not an easy task, but
Well, I would ask, what are they the best in the world at doing? There are, for example, in my profession, there are tons of copywriters. However, there are certain people that are specialists in direct mail, for example, or there are certain people that are specialists in writing landing pages. So what do they believe they're in the world at? Figure that out first, what they need to focus on. You have to have an offer that is your bread and butter, something that you're going to be able to generate revenue instantly. So they have to pick something that they're going to be known for. That's one thing to differentiate yourself. And then you can create content around that. The other is proposition. How are you positioning yourself, not only on social media in general, to be valuable to your ideal customers? What are you revealing about your expertise that's going to do that for you? How are you going to put yourself in that position to be valuable than someone else who writes copy for the same industry? And it boils down, I think, to three things: your mentality / your attitude. That's extremely important. And I think a lot of people, honestly, they hire me off of that, because there are plenty of people, as you know, who are, I believe, at the time anyway, they're more skilled than I am because they've had the experience. However, people want to hire other people who they have chemistry with and they can relate personality. So it's revealing that. And the other two things I would say are, like I mentioned, putting out content specifically that describes how you work on a specific project. It could be, in my case, it could be email marketing. In their case, it could be landing pages. Let's say you're a wealth manager. Maybe your specialty is retirement plan. Or if you're a trader, your specialty could be micro cap stock investing. You have to be known for at least one thing, could be a couple other things, but at least one thing that people know, okay, this is what I'm going to this person for. I know they can get the job done. And then the third thing would be really understanding who you're talking to. And I think a lot of people are unclear about their audience, and they don't understand how to leverage their audience because they don't know who they are. And one thing about LinkedIn specifically, the main way to attract clients, you can have a great personal brand, you can have a great attitude, you can have exceptional. If you're not connected to the right people, then the likelihood of someone finding you who wants to hire you is very slim. So when you know your audience, you can connect to those people. You can reach out to those people. And I think that's one of the most important things. That's one thing that's overlooked a lot, because a lot of people talk about content on social media platforms. And yes, that is important. But I think what's even more important is when you know your audience, connecting with those people, with them, starting conversations with them, and building a relationship. Because when you do that, you show initiative, especially someone who is very, very busy. There could be 7, 8 entrepreneurs. You want to work with them. They take pride in people who are willing to go the extra mile, take the initiative, reach out to them, contact with them, and do whatever it takes to win their business. That's what they like. I have a client now I'm beginning working with next week, and literally I had reached out to him a few times, he didn't respond. Then I think the third time he responded. He says, okay, I want to hop on a call with you, because I know there's some people that think that way. They don't even talk to you until you've reached out to maybe 3 or 4 times. Then they know you're serious, and then they want to talk to you. And so we talked, and we figured it out together. And I think that's one of the golden nuggets that people can use on LinkedIn, because I think what happens is people reach out once, and they say, oh, this person didn't respond. Why am I going to reach out again? But the best thing you can do, I believe, is to just be persistent and know that this is your ideal customer, your target audience, and connect with them and do whatever you can to have a conversation with them.
Yeah, I remember an example from, I think it was Telefty, when there was a guy who reached out to him and just wanted to come and help him. And the email was like, hey man, like, I know you're busy, and I know that I'm not in the US right now. So, just wanted to see if I can help you somehow. And, like, Steli answered like, like you would answer to anybody who is on another continent and just like wants to help you. Because at that time it wasn't like digital, remote and everything else. But you know what happened? The guy bought a ticket and actually came to the US and show up at his door and I'm here to help, man. And he ended up being a co-owner of the company or something like that. He started working with him and it resonates. And the other example is also from the same from Steli FT, is because he was doing lots of outreach, doing sales, those kind of stuff. And he reached out to a guy, and basically the guy said, okay, just can you send me an email like in 2 weeks? And he didn't respond to that email after 2 weeks. Then again, he follow up. The guy didn't respond ever. Like after 2 years, he put it into automation, and he was following up. So after 2 years, somebody calls him on the mobile, unknown number, and say, "Hey man, it was the same guy," and said, first of all, sorry that I didn't respond to all those emails. So basically, when we talked and arranged the call, like the company called me, and in 3 days I needed to move to the east to run another department of the company and establish it over there. Now after 2 years of coming back, and the person that I'm calling is you. That's what it means to being persistent as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a story I heard, and it was, I believe, the CEO of Kraft Foods at the time. This was years ago. And so the guy was cold calling him, got through his gatekeepers and got to his voicemail, but never actually spoke with him. And he called 100 times. And on that 100th call, the guy picked up the phone himself and said, hey. And then they talked, and he got his business. And there was no question that he was counting all the calls, pick up on the 100th call. And I think that's what's really important, because I know people, you can email them 6, 7, 8 times, they're not going to respond. No matter how great there is, even if they want the offer, they won't respond. I learned that from my first mentor, because he is in the telecom industry. He now moved. He was living here in Halifax, Nova Scotia at the time, well, around the area anyway, for a time. And then he moved now. He's in Switzerland. And so when he was mentoring me, he taught me, he said, one thing you have to understand is that people like me, or people in my position, they're not going to respond initially to any outreach you do, because even if it is appealing to me, I don't care. I don't know you, and I want you're serious. So if you respond, if you keep reaching out and I see that you're wanting to get my attention, then eventually I will respond. Another thing he taught me was I don't get on phone calls. He says, if I get in a phone call, then the person has to pay me, my client has to pay me a premium fee. Other than that, I won't get on the phone call. If they really want to talk with me, they can meet me and we can meet somewhere, wherever we are in the world, and that will be what we'll do. But he says, you want to limit the amount of phone calls you have, because most of your phone calls are going to be a waste of time. So if you're going to get on the phone, make sure it's either with a potential client or your current client. And if it's your current client, have them.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay. And so those are important to learn. And the interesting thing about him is he was in Sweden and he discovered technology, him and the Swedish research team, and he sold it to the guy who did it. I don't know the guy's name who patented it. The guy, if you look up Bluetooth, his name will pop up. So he sold it to him. And he said to me, I don't use Bluetooth. And I said, but you founded the technology. He says, yeah. He says, but I'll never use it. It's not something I believe anyone should use, but everyone uses it now. And I said, okay. He went into a whole explanation of why he doesn't use it. And I thought it was interesting. And I'm guessing it's true. He invented it. I would assume he knows what he's talking about. But it was quite fascinating to hear that. And so now I will see him again, because I will visit him in Switzerland just to have a meeting with him, talk with him, because he always has some insights to give. And he's one of those people who doesn't need any more experience, because he's dealt with virtually any business situation that you can be in, because he's dealing with companies all around the world, and he's doing business with most countries in the world too, because he's setting up cell phone towers for various different companies in countries all through Asia, South America, North America, and Iceland.
Yeah, and it's a competitive industry. Everything else, so
Yep.
I can imagine how many stories he has and how many different industries he has touched with.
Yeah, he told me some very, very fascinating stories, and I thought it was quite interesting, because some of the stuff, one other stuff was very serious, and initially he had said, this is a strange story to me, because this is before he was a professor at the university in Paris, France. And so he was just beginning to get into the telecom industry and start his business. And he was going to stop teaching and go conduct business. And so a guy approached him because I guess he wanted to help him build a tower somewhere in France, cell phone tower. And initially he said, well, this does sound good, and you have the money, you have the funding for it, so yeah, maybe we'll do it. So what he did is he went and he found out the guy's background. Turns out, unfortunately, this guy, he was apparently one of the biggest human traffickers all throughout Europe. And so when he found that out, he met with them and he says, okay, I'm not going to accept this deal. We're not going to go through with it. And the guy just said, okay, that's fine. And I said, have you dealt with anyone else like that going onwards with your business? He says, well, yeah, but I don't deal with them and do business with them, but they come to me. And I said, I can see why. And he said, yeah, so whenever you're going to do business with someone and it's on a high scale, make sure that you do your reconnaissance and you figure out who they are. I said, yeah, I understand.
Yeah, good lesson.
Yeah.
Listen, we are getting to the end. I don't want to take more of your time. I know you're busy, but what are some things that maybe we didn't talk about, or something that comes to your mind that you want to say for the end?
I would say if you're starting out, as a direct response copywriter or a marketing consultant or anyone even as a marketer, entrepreneur, businessman, businesswoman, what have you, one thing you have to know is you don't need to know much, and you shouldn't waste your time doing a bunch of research. You'll learn faster by taking action, experiencing different things. And that is, I think, the best formula for business, because it is good to read some books and take some courses here and there, but there's no, like I said before, an algorithm for experience. So go out there and get as much experience as you can. Don't worry about making mistakes. You're going to make mistakes, no matter what stage of
We all do.
business life you're in. So the best advice I was ever given, do it, and that is what you should be focusing on most days, doing things that you know is going to keep the needle moving forward. Whether that's creating content, whether that's outreach to potential clients, whether it's sales calls to potential clients, something that you know is going to help grow your business. That's focus on, not studying and reading books, taking the podcast. Not that anything of that is bad, but your actions are what will determine your future. And the more actions you take, the easier it will become to use that muscle and understand what works and what doesn't work.
Sounds good. I think we're gonna, edit that part and post it
Sure.
as a separate advice for everybody listening. Tell me where, and tell the people where they can find you. I guess it's LinkedIn. Any other place?
Yep. The only social media platform I have is LinkedIn at the moment. Kyle R. Bell on LinkedIn. And I will open a YouTube channel at some point, most likely sometime next year. That will happen. Aside from that, if you want to get in touch with me, you can email me, kyle.bell@bellcopywriting.com. I'm open to have a discussion about whatever. Just don't email me bullshit. That's all I ask. Other than that, I thank you again for having me on the show. It was an honor and pleasure, and it was a great time talking with you. I could speak about these things for hours.
Yeah, we'll do this a few more times, definitely. But
Absolutely.
An advice that you got me thinking now, and I can give to you is, because you're doing lots of short videos from your mobile. Upload them, create the YouTube channel now, and start uploading only them with the hashtag shorts, because these are the ones that are, now the most watched ones on YouTube, and they get found very fast inside the YouTube algorithm. So those are videos with exactly the same vertical format, up to 3 minutes, exactly those that you are creating. So I would suggest you just go and publish just shorts from your mobile. That's it.
Why not? I'll do it. And I will do as well is add some subtitles, add a headline on top, and then potentially shoot the videos horizontally so it covers the entire screen, put them up. That'll be quick and see what happens. Because, yeah, you are right. Shorts are the most popular format on YouTube, and I think they are one of the best ways to generate warm leads as well.
I cannot say related to YouTube and leads. Still trying to figure out all that algorithm and everything, but I'm seeing that the shorts are going up in the analytics, so I can see where it's going. Like I don't have time personally to go and create something specifically for that format. I can repurpose the things from the podcast, but those are not the things that can be put into like 2 minutes, because here we are talking about things. Sometimes I can get something to be that long, but usually it's the longer content. But anyway, I still publish the smaller episodes, parts of the episodes up to 10 minutes, and YouTube rank them as shorts as well. So kind of it's interesting. Still watching it, still learning, but we'll get there eventually.
Absolutely.
Man, thanks again for being on the show. It was a pleasure, and all of you guys, thank you for listening, Kyle and me. And what I always like to say for the end, keep it funky.
Absolutely. Thanks again for having me, Nemanja. Take care.
Bye bye.